Our show today is skewing COVID positive because today is the COVID-versary. 4 years ago today, our world changed as we knew it.
Thanks, Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the first things I remember. And we posed this question to you, Fox Sports Radio Nation. What do you remember 4 years ago today?
Yeah.
My brother's birthday. Today's my brother's birthday. He started COVID in my mind.
Happy birthday. Here's a mask.
Yeah. What do you remember 4 years ago today? Doesn't have to be sports related, but
And it doesn't need to be today. It could be that first 6 months to a year of COVID. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be negative Norberto or Debbie Downer. But what do you remember from 4 years ago? Because as we said, there are some odd similarities. Chiefs beat the Niners. Biden, Trump. I hope we don't have a pandemic on our hands.
Dodgers.
I remember, wasn't it just like
Dodgers going to win again? Lakers going to win again?
I remember, is my timing off? Oh, well, anyway, you know what? I remember Zion busting through his shoe just weeks before this. Wasn't that like weeks before this? Or is my timing off?
I think your timing's off.
Is
You're
it?
off by a year.
Okay, well, speaking of basketball, I don't know why I'm jumbling those memories together. Rudy Gobert.
Oh, that's when you busted through your croc.
You know what? I think I busted through my own shoe. I think that's what happened.
That's what it was.
But I remember Rudy Gobert rubbing the microphones and the headphones, not taking this serious. We had heard rumblings and mumblings and whispers of...
By the way, did you just hear that? Spot coughed in the background.
I know.
In the year 2020, if someone coughed, you might as well have shot him. Like, oh, he's got. Like,
Well, I just remember...
oh, get him out of here.
I remember watching that and thinking, oh, no, what's going on? This is legit. And I remember around that same time the Tom Hanks story broke. Why I remember these things and why these memories are jumbled for me is because, well, I have a lot of resentment toward this time of our life, and I try to forget it like we all did because it was 2 years of misery and BS.
Depending on where you live.
But no, for everybody because the world was affected. You know, some had it easier than others, of course. But we were in Los Angeles, and we were working at ESPN. So that's why I remember, watching basketball, watching Rudy Gobert. And I remember clearly, like, us being sent home. Games were off that night. And like, wow, this is getting serious. But, yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, today was the day you were told by your boss in many of your jobs. I know not everyone. This is not a blanket statement. But a lot of people were told. Blanket. On this day 4 years ago, a lot of people were told, hey, we'll see you in 2 weeks. We're going to flatten the curve. And that was just not true.
Well, and
maybe
again,
you were singing Happy Birthday, washing your hands.
I do.
Now,
That's one
now
of the
you're
things I
back.
remember.
Now you're back to not washing
But
your
I
hands.
remember thinking, no, I still wash my hands.
Oh.
That's you, buddy.
No, sorry.
Don't shake Rich's hand.
You still wipe down the counter with wipes?
I do. Yeah. Again, we were all affected in different ways.
And raise your hand if you had a FEMA badge, because some of us didn't get to go home at all.
Well, Danny G, that's the
Wow.
difference, right? And that's why we're sharing stories, because you were considered an essential guy,
I would
right?
argue that you're essential to our show, but at that time, Danny, you're not that essential.
No, but
Well,
he had to come
we had
back.
to be here at the control center to run the radio programs. The host could be remote wherever they were at home or nobody was traveling really at that time. But at home, the host connected. We ran the shows from here. So the production staff still had to be here.
I think
Yeah,
some
I
people
can't do this aboard remote.
I think some people still think it's COVID then, if that's the case.
Now, check this
I still
out.
have this card here, the critical response team cards.
Let's take you behind the velvet rope, Covino and Rich style, because I remember thinking, all right, well, we're going to come back in 2 weeks. Rich and I were working at SiriusXM and ESPN. We had our own daily TV show every night on ESPN. Now or never. Some of you remember, some never heard of it. That's fine. And we were really building steam, really getting in a groove. We were in our second year of the show, and we never went back. That's the truth. You know, Danny G, you were essential. You went right back to work, right? Rich and I never stepped foot again.
They should have
ESPN.
rebranded. They should have rebranded your ESPN TV show and called it Essential Sports.
You know what? They rebranded it from Now and Never to Never.
Yeah, they did coin the now.
Never coming back.
But no, we left on that Friday, March 13th, 2020, from ESPN. We got microphones, cameras, and a 70-inch screen sent to our house as like a backdrop. I set up a little studio I didn't have a house back then. I was living in an apartment
We
still.
all did.
And I had this 70-inch monitor TV, and we did that for a year.
We sat.
Of our lives.
I did it in my daughter's bedroom. I have a 2-bedroom place. So I had a 75-inch screen in my daughter's bedroom, she'd be sitting there picking her nose, playing video games, watching her dad host a national TV show.
Chicken nuggies in the background.
Yeah, as we sit, she's bothering me for something. Dad, can I get a napkin? I'm like, I'm on ESPN right now. We were on TV every night in front of large TV screens, in front of fake apartments. Like, it was like a fake backdrop. And we did that for a year. We never went back to ESPN.
I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't thought about it since, but we saw a lot of what happened behind the scenes of people's living rooms, bedrooms. Remember?
Yes.
People would walk behind.
That was the fun of it.
Zoom became a thing.
Underwear, yeah.
You know what they wanted us to do, which I thought was really funny looking back? They're like, well, we're going to try to make the best of it. Covino, we're going to make it look like you have a sleek penthouse apartment.
Yeah, like they were paying me a lot or something.
Like, they had Covino in like a penthouse.
By
with, like,
Staples Center.
With like,
it was fake.
Do you remember during the NFL draft a couple years ago where everyone's like, "Oh my God, where does Cliff Kingsbury live?"
Of course.
Like he had the most opulent place. They gave Covino essentially that background with a fake Jeter jersey on the wall.
Well, they put our actual memorabilia up. Like if we had photos of our family, they superimposed it into this like fake place. We were sitting in front of a giant monitor.
Yeah.
It was all fake. It was all BS. And Danny G, you're right. This is when we said goodbye to Skype and Zoom and what was the one where everybody got together? A house party? All these things became a thing. My girlfriend was coming home like, I bought a puzzle for us to do. And I'm like, puzzles?
Spot started making bread every week.
Yeah. So, again, based on that, what do you remember or what
Big
did we
60 pounds.
forget? Let's unlock some memories because we tried to tuck them all away.
Yeah,
4 years ago now.
I remember Spot coming in and being like, I have a sourdough starter. I'm like, what are you even talking about?
It was the weakest. Greatest. Dude, it was the weakest
It is
time
funny
ever.
because we are about to hit we're in conference tournaments for college basketball. I had just gotten back from Vegas like a week before the tournament started. Like I might have been one of the last people like getting to go through Vegas before it's all closed.
Yeah. Dude, I remember
Because I was betting on Creighton that weekend.
Speaking of the tournament, would you agree that was one of the first real signs that like, oh, this is real? When they canceled the NCAA tournament, you're like, oh.
Didn't even get to I think they canceled it during the conference tournaments, I think.
It was, that was sign one like, oh, man, this is going to be annoying. This is real, huh? And then, do you remember some of the stuff you did that was stupid, but you were just sort of trying to be a good person and follow the rules? I remember
wiping down your cereal boxes?
Wiping down my groceries when I got home from Ralph's. And I'm like, looking back, I'm like, there I was at Wife's being like, well, maybe you're a good boy.
Again, stating the obvious, but we were told different things from week to week, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we didn't know what to think.
Remember the stores had like a 2-hour window for senior citizens, like each morning?
Old people hours. I was saying that to Spot
people
earlier.
Fighting for TP for no reason?
Crazy. Yeah. People, instead of getting, vitamins and supplements and things like that, everybody was grabbing all the water and Lysol wipes.
I think
You don't want to run out of toilet paper, though. I get it.
Think of all the misinformation on all sides of things. Looking back, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but so many mistakes and missteps along the way for everyone involved, right? Like, forget politically. I'm saying like so many missteps, but hey, 4 years later, here we are.
You know what this is like? As we reminisce on the anniversary of when everything went down, it's like if you fast forward into the future, when your grandkids ask you, Grandpa, what was COVID like? And you kind of forgot these things because you wanted to forget these things, but all of a sudden you're like, well, what are they going to do with sports? How are they going to handle this?
For every negative, there's a positive to come out of it. We lost, people were lost. It was not a good time. But when you think about some of the benefits, there are benefits from everything. There's that old proverb, right?
People
Like,
got lazy and sloppy
out
and they
of,
wear sweatpants every day now?
in times of...
you haven't taken sweatpants off since then.
It's a good point. My love of sweatpants. I'll put that on the positive list.
I don't think that's a positive at all.
How
It made
about-
people lazy looking,
How about the idea of confirming the fact that if you needed to, you could do the show from Jersey when you visit your family. If you go away, you were in Hawaii. You did
Okay.
our Fox Sports radio show from Hawaii. Like,
But
that's a benefit.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? That benefit made so many workplaces, throughout the country, throughout the world, less productive, and we lost a lot of camaraderie as a result. When's the last time you hadn't seen coworkers? Dude, I never saw my ESPN or SiriusXM colleagues again. No one's really reporting back the way they used to. People sort of show up whenever they want.
Yeah, but you got to spend more time with your family.
Not everybody. I was a co-parent,
Yeah, the
so that was
family
very
you were-
difficult.
maybe the family you were trapped
Yeah,
At one
it
location
ended a
with.
lot of
It did.
relationships. You realize
Yeah.
your kid was a pain in the ass.
Some people hunkered down and they had just started dating.
Not everything
Or were
was
just married.
hunky-dory like it was for you, Rich.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was going back and forth between Texas and Los Angeles during that time because I was doing renovations on my house. I would go to Texas, Danny.
Sounds safe.
Had to do what I had to do.
Rich was traveling. He didn't care.
I didn't. I had to do what I had to do. So I'm going back and forth from Texas to L.A. I'd go to Texas, and they'd be like,
Yeah, but that was when they were saying you shouldn't be traveling.
you'd go to Texas, and they'd be like, what is COVID? I'd come to L.A., people would have 4 masks on.
Yeah.
I felt like I was living in a Twilight
Well,
Zone
you know
episode.
what? Fox Sports Radio Nation, definitely keep that in mind as well. We're talking from an L.A. perspective.
Yeah,
so
but
it was
I'm
weak.
talking from an LA
Right.
/ Texas perspective. I was outside of Austin for a better part of like 6 months plus while my house was being renovated in Los Angeles.
I didn't see my parents for 2 years, at least, because I couldn't travel. And they weren't traveling. They were old. Look, it was very hard on old people. It was very hard on kids. It sucked for kids. How about, to tie it back to sports, how many athletes were in their prime, didn't get to finish out their seasons?
Dude.
They were robbed of their
Yeah,
years at school.
Covino, you think of high school seniors. It was horrible. They didn't get
Sucks.
to walk. They didn't get to have their senior trip. None of that. A prom.
But
Their prom was missing.
My wife showed me a picture the other day, and I'm like, yeah, it's not really a great consolation. She showed me some cool story about how there was a local high school that because the team didn't get to play their senior year back in 2020, they buried a baseball by home plate and put a plaque on the field. I'm like, you think the kids they want their season back, which they'll never get. That was the bummer, right? All the missed stuff, right?
Yeah.
Little kids were robbed of their school trips and their graduations.
I know this
and
is less
socializing.
This is less important, but Dodger fans, Laker fans didn't get to have a parade here.
Oh yeah, that's
It was
big.
weird. It was just
Dude,
like
cardboard fans.
No parades, but protests.
Fans in the stands.
Protests were allowed
Yeah,
there. They
yeah.
were allowed.
Oh yeah, the virtual fans, the virtual fans
Virtual
that they
fans.
set up.
Cardboard cutouts in the
Yeah.
stands.
I like how Danny points out that the Lakers didn't get parades, yet they probably got 2 championships because of COVID. Right? The Dodgers.
Asterisk
yes.
seasons.
There it is.
boy.
I think it was
Oh,
tough.
the
I think it was.
bubble.
I think it was tougher in the bubble.
Yeah, you could argue it was a tougher year to do anything.
Oh, you know
Are
what I
you
think of?
kidding me? I
I'm
know
not
this is
kidding
this
you.
is a
Shortened season.
completely
I'm not
different
kidding you.
discussion.
Everybody was
You
on
gave
this.
LeBron James and Anthony
come
Davis
on.
3 months off.
LA
Everybody
Homer.
whining about a
Homer.
parade.
Everybody else had 3 months off as well.
You're,
Don't give
you're
me
whining
that.
about a parade.
I'm not whining. I
Oh,
said I
jeez.
started it.
My
Fire.
goodness.
That's a debate in itself.
I started
Oh.
the sentence by saying.
By the way, it was like a year later anyway. You know?
Stop it.
You know what I think of
Did
when
I
you
not,
mentioned the
did I
bubble?
not preface it by saying this is less important than everything
did.
else?
You did.
You did. That's a debate in itself. Was the bubble more challenging
Danny
as a result?
Danny G didn't get to do snow angels in the confetti.
He didn't.
In the confetti. I know.
No LA fans did, not just Danny G, but I remember Big Face Coffee. That was a big thing. Playoff Jimmy Butler selling coffee for $20 a pop during that bubble phase.
Let me throw 3 things out there and we'll move on. We'll get to more positive stuff. But it is the 4-year anniversary of the, hey, everyone go home for 2 weeks. We'll see you then. Fast forward like 2 years later for a lot of people.
And how much did you spend on DoorDash?
You know, I think back
how
of how
much
many.
is our immune system compromised, being that we used hand sanitizer for years?
I tried not to as much. You use it every day. I'm off that stuff.
Yeah, but that's why, that's why I got it from him.
There was one episode when I went shopping for groceries that stuck out for me. It was right before a lot of the shelter in place or whatever the go home orders happened. I did go out to Ralph's at that time, and I was going by milk. I was trying to get milk, and there's this woman looking over all of them. And she asks me about one that I buy. It's like, hey, do you know any of these milks that last longer in the fridge? And I'm like, yeah. Then I point her. I forget the name of it. It's one of those organic.
Perfect. You don't have kids.
milks.
What do you drink? Even a lot of cereal? What are you doing?
I like scrambled eggs.
Hey,
I
okay.
like scrambled eggs. I
This is
use milk
milk.
in my
Okay,
scrambles.
gotcha.
Yeah. So and mac and cheese.
Huge cereal guy.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm like, yeah, this one's fine. Usually most milk shelf life is like what, a week and a half. The organic ones, they last close to like 3-4 weeks. And she's like, oh, great. And she starts like pulling down like 3 or 4 of them. And I'm like, the world, you're going to be able to come back out
People
here
were
again. You
freaking
don't
out.
need to-
Yeah, there was a
You
lot
don't
of
need to
freak
do
outs.
this.
Look, dummies that had zero vocabulary were using the word quarantine for the first time. We were introduced to social distancing. You're like, what the heck is that? we were introduced to Joe Exotic because we were bored out of our minds, right? So we're trapped watching the same stupid show.
You could sum it up.
Tiger King.
You could sum it up with the fact that we were so bored and isolated at that moment of our
We
lives
were
that
bored in the house and we're in the house bored. Bored in the house and we're in the house bored.
Remember
watching TikTok videos, bored out of our
Yeah,
mind.
TikTok blew up, and Joe Exotic. And, to wrap it up, Perfect, can you look up this one song because I feel like it'll take us all mentally back to 2020.
Do we really want to go there?
Jason Derulo, Savage Love. I feel like that song will always, in my mind, like that damn song will always click to me like that and Carol Baskin. Killed her, husband, whacked him.
No, the song that represents that time of our life 4 years ago is I Saw a Tiger and a tiger saw a man.
Joe Exotic's music was.
Yeah.
There was some bangers in there.
Rich
I just
and
remember being in here for several weeks discussing The Last Dance because there were no sports on.
That's right. You know what?
Everyone talking at The Last Dance. No
That's a good
greater
memory,
winner
yeah.
from the pandemic than Michael Jordan's legacy.
I'll debate that. The naked black man who goes by the name of Wood.
He won.
That was everywhere
But
during this time of year.
Perfect's right. We benefited. Our type of show benefited as far as content goes because people that rely solely on sports, were like, duh. Like what do you talk about when there's nothing going on? You're right.
That is a good one.
Michael Jordan Last Dance was like content for a lot of people for like months of their life.
It just felt that that documentary was made specifically to reignite LeBron versus Jordan, which doesn't need help being ignited at any point. But this was a huge chip in the center of, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm still the GOAT. I don't need to hear it. And then we get, Scottie Pippen being mad down the line. And
He took that personally.
Well, I hated how that documentary also treated Jerry Krause because then you fast forward, you have people booing Jerry Krause's widow at a Bulls game.
That is true.
Getting charged up because of how much blame is laid at the feet of a dead man for those Bulls teams being ripped apart.
Well, the question is, what do you remember 4 years ago today? What takeaways do you have? How did it affect you, your sports? I hated every second of this. I'm not going to lie. Most of us did.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's like, man, COVID.
But that's why I try to forget it. I really do. But, hey, it was 4 years ago on this day that our world changed. We thought it'd be 2 weeks. It was over 2 years. What a waste.
Yeah. Happy weak-ass anniversary. All right.
Oh,
now,
and by the way, for anyone that thinks I'm downplaying it, I almost died, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, the priest came in and read me my rosaries. I was in the hospital for over a week.
It's
I had
when the
pneumonia.
Sunday night show first started. I remember you coming back from the hospital.
Dude,
No,
that was a mess.
I was auditioning new co-hosts.
Yeah. So I'm not downplaying it or by any means. I'm just saying it was such a waste of time. It sucked so bad. And that was 4 years ago. COVID.